Welcome, welcome, welcome. Another episode of a Candor Gander. This is a special one. I think one was very excited about doing. As a disclaimer, crypto meme's not with us as of yet. We'll see if we can get him. If he jumps on, great. But if not, that's just fine. That's why we have a co-host, Mister Around Cloud 7. You know him from some of our prior shows. Um, I'll go ahead and start off with some disclaimers. I think you all should know that both Around Cloud 7 and myself are not signed up to any of these premium services. Around Cloud 7, I think, said it best. We're too poor for that. Um, but we do make use of other tools out there, like many of you. Um, yeah, so I've looked into some of these third-party tools. I've just not used them. So, um, with that said, I'll go ahead and do some introductions. Mr. Around Cloud 7, do you want to maybe introduce Thanos here?
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Around Cloud. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Just a clarification, my name is Thanos, and it's spelled, it's Thanpolas, from Thunder. Say Thunder, Thanpolas. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
I wanna get confirmation here. Can you all hear Around Cloud? We can. Just wanna make sure you guys can. I see some of the no,
No,
so it sounds like it's just they say no. Around Cloud, do you wanna okay. Yeah, so we'll get him back in. Thanks for bearing with us. What I'll do is because I that's a very great introduction for you, Thanos, and I'm sorry, Thampulus, and I'm sorry they didn't get to hear. But what I'll do is I'll tweet it out. I think it is important to sort of get to hear what your qualifications are. Um, and with that said, while we wait to have Mr. Round Cloud 7 back on, I'll go ahead and sort of tease out and talk through what we're actually going to be discussing. A couple rules are sort of rules of engagement, and we talked through some of this beforehand around Cloud 7's on board as well. So this isn't and we'll get him back on here, see if y'all can hear him.
Back.
He'll be
I've got
jumping
the
on.
30-second delay on YouTube, so we'll see if they can hear me now.
Sweet. So hopefully you guys can hear him. We'll wait for confirmation here in the chat box. So yeah, so it'll be we have a set of questions or 5 questions we came up with. I wound up reaching out to many of you within the community to identify whether or not you had any questions you wanted to ask as part of this discussion. um, Compiled those questions. I consolidated them into these 5. We'll be asking them. I did provide those questions in advance to both our guests. The idea of the sort of the discussion here, the debate here, is to not identify who's a better debater, but identify, have them answer the questions accordingly. Those are all questions I've had, questions you all have. So hopefully you guys can sort of maybe come to a consensus and agree to disagree on the position of are bots good or bad for DFK and GameFi at large. You both will get 5 minutes each to go ahead and start. So it'll be 5 minutes to respond to the question. Um, the other person would get a 2-minute rebuttal, and then 5 minutes to answer the same question, and then 2-minute rebuttal as well. We've agreed to sort of stay on point. No insults at each other, anyone in general. I think is nice. And then without further ado, I think if I've missed something, let me know. But we'll go ahead and get started.
Let's do it.
Uh,
Let,
Apologies, but maybe we should go through the bio again if it wasn't heard.
yeah.
I
Do you wanna read through that bio one more
I
time,
will
Around Cloud?
absolutely read it one more
That's
time
only
because I
fair.
know
Let's
I
do that.
stuttered a couple times. All right. So, Fan Paulus transitioned from a rewarding and fulfilling software engineer leadership career on Web 2 to Web 3 in 2021 and helped navigate startups through brutal hardships and held the keys to the kingdom of many businesses and dreams, managing large engineering teams. Both in Web 2 and DeFi, Thanos has major contributions to open source projects, communities, and DAOs. For his work in the recent years on DeFi, he has received grants from the biggest DeFi DAOs, including Uniswap, Balancer, Synthetics, and AAVE. Got involved in DFK on September 2021 and is one of the biggest stakeholders, owning more than 10 Gen Zero heroes and being the founder of the biggest and most popular DFK guild with 650 Discord members and 10,000 combined heroes. Thanos is also an admin of the unofficial DFK developers community, helping builders get their footing on the DFK ecosystem. He has also authored and open source SDK type libraries for faster DFK development and easier onboarding of new builders. Has produced numerous tools and services. Most are publicly available on the DGen Heroes Discord in the form of Discord commands and streams. He is also one of the few builders who operates ventures on top of the DFK ecosystem, most notable being his quality of life and quest automation bot, Diffkey. 15,000 heroes under management currently. He is also the co-founder of DFK Solver, which is a service that calculates heroes' floor price and finds the most profitable summon pairs for your heroes. I currently have used it multiple times. Thanos is an active and vivid community member with presence on almost all available platforms like the Builders and Talk websites, Twitter, Reddit, and of course on DFK, as well as many other DFK Discord servers. Thank you,
Beautiful.
Thanapolis.
Thank you very much. No, thank you very much
Thanpolis.
for
Nailed it.
yeah. Yeah. No, and it's not our intention to get the names wrong, but we'll get them. We'll keep working. If we butcher them, please correct us, both of you. Around Cloud 7, I'd love to have had such a beautiful introduction for yourself. I don't have one.
Oh, there
Other than
isn't one.
no, no, but I think we can say this much for you. You are the co-host of the show, but I also wanted to sort of chime in the fact or add to the fact that I think you take the perspective of the average player, right? Someone with a smaller wallet, someone who's more of a weary consumer, someone who's
Correct.
yeah, someone who's definitely has the best interest of their investment in mind. So with that said, let's go ahead and I'll start off with an sort of a snippet of an article I read. I'll read through it real quick, and I think it'll set the stage for some of these questions. So this article was published on Bloomberg, I think earlier this year, um, and it was titled "Why GameFi is Crypto's Hottest New Thing." And I quote: "In the most common usage, GameFi refers to decentralized application steps. with the economic incentives. Those generally involve tokens granted as rewards for performing game-related tasks such as winning battles, mining precious resources, or growing digital crops. It's an approach also known as play to earn. Article goes on to say that regular folks playing these games can lose out to bots, computer programs designed to play these games for profit that can post millions of transactions a day. Sunflower farmers, according to the article, a game in which players are rewarded for planting and harvesting digital crops, recently had to take its website down to fix vulnerabilities that bots were exploiting. So, with that in mind, question one, and we'll go ahead, left to right. I'll go ahead and start with Thampolis or Thanos. Thanos, right? Correct. We'll go with Thanos. And John, I'll go by John. That's my actual name. I think I've shared that before. Keep it short. Keep it simple. So question one, can you make a distinction between a gamified DEX and a game? At one point, does a gamified DEX become a game? So I'll go ahead and put 5 minutes here on the clock, and we'll go ahead and count down. Don't feel obligated to use all those 5 minutes for both of you. If you're done, let me know, and then we'll go ahead and proceed. So question one, can you make a distinction between gamified decks and a game, and at what point does a gamified deck become a game?
Right. Thank you. So yeah, the answer is yes. And to be able to answer this question, first we have to give a definition of what a game is. And for our particular context, it would make sense to separate them to video games and games in general. So, in GameFi, the Fi stands for finance, and that means that money is involved. And that is what makes the difference. Okay, so we play a game of poker. When money is involved, it's no longer a game. It's the difference between playing it for profit or playing it for fun. That is a distinctive difference to me, and that is what makes the answer clear. That as long as money is involved, it's not a game in the traditional sense. It's not a video game. Okay, GameFi is and will always remain basically a gamified finance product, and that makes GameFi definitely not a video game. And in that sense, actors, players will operate rationally based on their self-interests. And that means taking advantage of everything they have in their disposal to gain an edge for their profit. So yeah, that's the distinction made there, that as long as money is involved, it's a different kind of game. And
Perfect, perfect. All right, so we have I'll go ahead and put 2 minutes up on the clock around Cloud 7. I want you to respond to that. Cloud Scepter here. Go ahead and start to go for it around
All
Cloud.
right. So I'm kind of on the same page. So for me, the split does come. It is in money, the ability to get money back out. So with video games now and microtransactions, you can throw money into a game all day, left and right, but you're only getting enjoyment back out of it. So when it crosses over into GameFi, is the ability to play and enjoy a game and have money come out if you do it correctly. There's also for me a kind of a line between online gambling and this, but yeah, this is definitely because there's more of a strategic way to go about it, and there are people that do utilize bots for their advantage. Inside of a casino, you definitely get drug out back for that.
No, that sounds fair. Are you done with your rebuttal there around Cloud?
Yes.
All right, so let's go ahead and give you 5 minutes. I want you to describe at what point, a game is a game and no longer a gamified DEX.
So, yeah, as soon as it becomes a structured payment scale and effort to bank is when a game crosses over into DeFi for me. When there's a legit financial element beyond being like a casino. I'm betting 50 on red. Let's see what happens. Come in or out. With this, there's a banking structure, an investment scheme. You play the questing and everything. So there's a game inside of it that requires fun as well as strategy, not just logic and statistics.
Okay, that's fair. Anything else to add there, or can we move on to a quick rebuttal here?
No, I'm interested to hear what he says.
Yeah, no, and then that sounds fair. I guess what I'm missing, and I'm gonna maybe dig here a bit more around cloud because maybe I
Absolutely.
missed it. Um, so I think you did a good description, or you described gamified DAX, and once it stops being that, in light of something like DFK, at what point does it for you become a game, right? Is it um are you looking for a PvP, a PvE? Is Duels not a
I
game
see.
for you?
Duels for me, especially with the current development in chat, is not gamified for me yet. That's still one of the things that's uh, easily manipulated in my book. What I'm really waiting for is PVE. That truly, in in my mind, is really going to drive the full value of DFK. Um, Being able to play against the game rather than other people um, gives it an actual individualistic um, chance rather than having to go against the entire ecosystem.
Okay, that's fair. Thanos, rebuttal to this. Give you 2 minutes. You don't need to use it all.
Yeah, well, the only thing that I have to remark is that when it comes to PvE, current questing can be considered PvE. So maybe we
Mm,
should. I'm going to help the definition from where you're coming from and say that maybe a game that involves skill and judgment and intuition can be considered more of a game rather than the mindless click that the questing is. Would you agree with that?
yes.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, so that sounds like that answers question one. So what I gather from both of you is that at this point in time, the distinction between a game and a gamified DEX comes down to at what point is it no longer something where a random number generator sort of solves or gives you the results of any set task. Is that a correct assessment?
To a degree, I can agree. But with even in PvE, most games you're going to have that random number generator if you're going up against in-game creatures or um, I don't know the chance of finding a chest or anything like that beyond the like the click and quest. You're just waiting for the time to run out and then the number generator happens. But say with PvE, if you're going down and you choose to go down the right path instead of the left, you might have missed out on a chest. um, just the opportunities of being able to move yourself around and uh, add outside
That
factors.
yeah. So yeah. Okay. So the human piece making a difference. That's the end result. And I know I gave a minute here to Round Cloud. I want to sort of do the same for you, Thanos. Anything to add there?
I'm going to stand by my definition. Where money
Perfect.
is involved, it's a different thing than a video game. And I'm going to add that, if we introduce the skill aspect and the intuition, that's the point where we render automation obsolete. And I want to state clearly that that's where we all want to be.
Okay.
Oh,
That
okay.
sounds fair. Okay. So question two, and I'll start with you around Cloud 7 this time around. So question two, bots in GameFi can look like a variety of different things. They can optimize human actions such as auto questing, auto leveling, etc. And they can perform tasks humans can do, but better and faster. Like scouting an NFT marketplace to buy underpriced NFTs before they are listed in the user interface. With that in mind, thinking of GameFi at large, but sort of let's get granular and maybe talk about DFK as well. Um, where do you draw the line between quality of life improvements and cheating the system? And I'll
So,
give 5 minutes here. Give me 1 second. I'll start
no
the timer.
problem.
Yep.
So I think my line is, so I see all of the use in every one of the tools. I would love personally to be able to have a bot that searched tavern floor and found those underpriced heroes for me and was able to buy them instantly. However, the opposite side of that is while people are unfortunately still able to get scammed, people will pull their heroes, drop them on the tavern for way underneath floor. Bots will instantly buy those heroes, and then that scammer instantly pulled his profit. So, however, on the opposite side of that, stuff like the summoning tools, where I have to go in, find my heroes, go through, actually analyze the choices that it searches for me rather than having to flip every card, go through, search ADFK for what its background is. It's all available for me right there. But I don't have a bot that can search all that, go buy those heroes, do the summon for me. It's at there needs to be effort. You once you click a button and it just runs, it it's no longer a game, it's a program.
That sounds fair. Is that the time you choose to use?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me put 2 minutes up here. Thanos, feel free to respond.
Yeah, I'm going to respond on the sniping issue, which is a plague, let's call it, as it has been experienced by DFK. And I'm going to further elaborate on why I don't consider sniping to be cheating. It is par for the course when you're on the blockchain to have snipe bots. The onus of the responsibility of fixing that falls with the DFK team. Human error is only natural to happen. So it is the responsibility of the DFK team to produce an interface that eliminates human error. There is no way that it is a futile effort to try to combat sniping bots. That's not going to be work at any point in time. Okay, I'm going to talk about why that is in a moment. But we've also made collectively suggestions around how we can combat accidental hero listings. I believe, John, you signed that, right? As well, if you remember, 3-4 months ago, zero action has been taken, or even any reaction by the DFK team. And on top of that, as it came to be the most voted AMA question on Rapidar, for some reason, accidentally, the question got deleted. Now, I'm still expecting a response on that from Bolin, but I'm going to have to post it again so we can extract a response from the DFK team, because mistakes happen and people confuse renting for selling, and they list Gen Zero for selling for 50 Jewel.
Yeah.
These things have happened. The responsibility is with DFK team.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. OX Stay Mellow. Yeah, so this was a 2 minute rebuttal. You will get your 5 minutes, Thanos, to respond to the question. So what you were doing is you were rebuttaling or sort of responding to Around Cloud 7's comments. We will go ahead and put 5 minutes on the clock to respond to the question again. Without reading it all, again, just to recap, where do you draw the line between quality of life improvements and cheating the system?
Right. So let's first do a crash course on the blockchain, what it is and what it means. because there's an educational piece missing here that we all need to be on the same page in order to look eye to eye when we're talking about this stuff. Okay, so a developer develops a code that does something, that has some functionality, and deploys it on the blockchain. Now that code that gets deployed on the blockchain now becomes a smart contract that anybody can call, either to make a write, which is make an action, or read from it. Now, the blockchain is run by validators, and validators, their responsibility is to validate blocks. Validators are owned by multiple entities, so in that way, there's no single entity that owns the blockchain. So the blockchain is like a public good, okay? And that is what decentralization means, that it's not owned by anybody, and it's also uncensored. And the degree to where we have decentralization is important, as it is the measure to the safety of our funds. Okay. Now, again, going back to the deployed contract, now this deployed contract has some functionality, and anyone can interact with that contract because there is no censorship, as well as there are no controls. You cannot say, this or that user cannot use the contract. Anybody can use it with a wallet, with an address. So what happens is that this functionality and the data that this contract holds, the data and the state, means that we have hero with ID 10 that has these properties, is generation 0, etc., etc. All of this is public domain, which is in contrast to being proprietary. Okay, this is public domain. This is very important to understand in terms from an intellectual property perspective, a legal one. Okay, and naturally, bots and automation go hand in hand with the blockchain. It's basically a symbiotic relationship. It's how we have DeFi today. It's because of automation. It's because of arbitrage bots. That's how DeFi works. And now, going back to gaming, if we contrast blockchains, decentralized with centralized entities in gaming, so you have on the one hand, you have custody of your assets, so you own your NFT, whereas on a centralized entity, the company owns the NFT. On the blockchain, the company has no control over how people interact with their contracts. On a centralized entity, they have absolute control to the minute level. And on the blockchain, all data are public, whereas on the centralized, none is. It's only your data is available to you. So let's keep that in mind, and let's now try to give a definition on what exploit is. Bolon gave that yesterday. It's a very good one. An exploit would be taking advantage of something not working properly, so a bug in the contract. Okay, but in a philosophical kind of sense, even a bug in the contract that is public domain and everybody can use is debatable whether it can be considered an exploit. But we'll consider it an exploit for the sake of this conversation. Now, let's talk a little bit about Ted Lasso, if you recall the series from Apple TV, a US football coach. So imagine that, you get a football player from the US and bring them to play football in Europe. The parallel I'm drawing here is bringing players from traditional gaming to the crypto world in GameFi. So you're going to have the US players start to play football. They're going to catch the ball and start running. And every other player and the entire crowd is going to watch him like, what is he doing now? And they're going to tell him, you're not doing this right. And he's going to go like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You catch the ball. And they're going to go ballistic. You're not going to tell me how to play the game. I know how to play the game. But it's a different environment you're operating onto. And that is the difference of the game operating on the blockchain and a game being proprietary. In the same sense, somebody could say, hey, Thanos can monitor all of my heroes, how they quest, how I level them up. That's cheating. That's not cheating. That's part of the rules. I can query the contracts, and I can view your heroes. I can view what you do with them. All right. And in that sense, I have more skill. And in gaming, we've all encountered very highly skilled players, and we confuse this with cheating, but it's not. It's skill.
No, thank you for that. We are at that 5 minute mark. We'll give you 2 minutes here around cloud to respond to that. A lot was said, but I think part of what I'd like to hear in your response is, if DeFi is gonna stay DeFi, some of these things are gonna be inherent within the environment. In your response. So again, responding to what Thanos said, could you take 2 minutes here?
Oh man, Thanos was on such a roll. I was enjoying that. um, it's hard to rebuttal. That was so smooth. Um, yeah, just the fact I know for a fact that there's just because I am a pretty hardcore gamer, jumping into a lobby that you haven't played for in a while, getting smacked left and right, you're like, God, these guys must be using an aimbot. And then you play for 6 8 weeks, and you're like, no, they were just that good because now I'm starting to get on that level. So, um, but yeah, to me, the absolute line is just play the game. It just I don't want pure automation. Just yeah, come into the game, click a button, and then everything's done for you. There's no enjoyment in that. There's no play.
No, and that sounds fair. And I think I don't want to cut you off. Are you done with your
Yes.
rebuttals? Okay, cool. I didn't want to interrupt, but you brought up an interesting point. It was a question that was initially, in the group of these questions, but I decided to take it off because I think there is a consensus there. And Thanos, I know you brought this up with me. It's like um, you're not in favor, and I think as a whole, and I can't speak for everyone, but you specifically are not in favor of like aimbots in a game. Like that's we were talking about what's a game and what's a gamified dex. When you start getting into bots created to manipulate the outcomes of a game because you put something in the code to sort of make it in your favor. You're not in favor of something like that. Just to clear the air on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we start from the distinction between what is a game, a video game, and what is GameFi. Most definitely. I mean, on video games, aimbots are cheating. There's no doubt about
So
that.
yeah, if
Right,
you
and it
drop
sounds like there
cheating
is a
bots on
consensus there.
GameFi, you're legit robbing people. So
Right, right. So there is that distinction that I think should be for anyone questioning or who had that question in mind. I did want to bring it up because I thought it was a good one, and I was sort of um impressed is the wrong word, but I was glad to hear that there was consensus there for sure. And again, you're not speaking for everyone, Thanos, in the bot community, but from your perspective, you agree that that's absolute cheating. So that's great. We'll go on to this next question. Question three. Um, in a play to earn economy, the question or the concept is you have to play in order to earn. It's not passive investment. It's not a passive investment. Why should you be able to run bots that bypass this, allowing you to skip the play piece in the play to earn? And I'll put 5 minutes here on the clock. Go ahead and feel free to respond.
I believe it's my turn now.
Yep.
yes.
Right. So in a play to earn economy, the concept is you have to play to earn. Who gives that definition? I don't, I don't register that definition. Um, the keyword here is economy. You have an economy, and in the economy you have inflows and outflows. For GameFi economy, the inflows are new users, new money into the system, and competitive users who might put additional funds so they can go further. For instance, burning stampots, right? And what are the outflows of this economy? People cashing out, going to the DEX, exchanging their jewel for USDC, withdrawing it to their SEX, and then SEX as in centralized exchange, if anybody's laughing. And again, the FI in the GameFi is finance. All right, and finance is not a game; it's an investment. I'm putting my hard-earned money. I'm investing it, them to this investment. I am taking NFTs back. I am staking those NFTs to get rewards. Short-term staking, long-term staking. It depends on the GameFi. In our particular case for DFK, it is short-term staking, a few hours or minutes. And let's go back to, again, let's state the obvious here that the bots are not the problem. The bots, the automation are the symptoms. And the problem is the gameplay of DFK that doesn't involve at all skill, judgment, or intuition. Okay, there's nothing rewarding by mindlessly clicking your 100 heroes to do questing, or leveling them up one by one painstakingly, or having to bridge 30 heroes or 50 separate items from your inventory over to CV because SD is going to get burned. There's nothing rewarding about that. And that's it. That's my answer.
No, that sounds fair. Interesting things I heard, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, Thanos, but I want you to respond to this around cloud because it's interesting. Um, the idea of play to earn, some people describe that as an inherent sort of staple within GameFi, but it sounds like Thanos, that may not be part of your definition for, what GameFi is. If I'm wrong there, please let me know. But around Cloud 7, I mean, that concept, play to earn, um, not equating, not being a thing in GameFi, not being something inherent within GameFi because it's an investment. Could you respond to that? Give me a second here and I'll put 2 minutes here up on the clock.
So while you do that, I think a couple people, Jen, OX, they're kind of on the same thing. We don't want it to be Farmville. We are waiting for the actual gameplay, and I have to agree with Fanpolis that because we're at the point where it is button clicking, automation is really the way to it is the way to go. But once I think our fear is once we do have that intuition and skill aspect to where we can actually play this game other than just running the quests and everything, we're worried about where these bots are going to grow to, I think is
Yes, no, and I love that. Continue if you have more to say.
that's my rebuttal.
No, that sounds fair, and I think that's sort of the message, the thread I heard from a lot of people, in asking them questions, and I'm sort of trying to get to that as well. Is where do you draw that line, right? Where is it? It sounds like we've already discussed some of this already, but many of us are wary of bots because if bots can do these things, what stops them from doing these other things? But it's interesting. I sort of like your response there around cloud. 2 minutes here for you, Thanos, to respond to. Or actually, no. I'm sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you get a chance to sort of answer the question around Cloud 7?
No, he needs the
No.
five
Okay.
minutes.
Perfect.
No.
Yeah. So let me give you those 5 minutes, and I'll reread the question for you. So the question is, um, in a play to earn economy, the concept is you have to play in order to earn. It's not passive investment. Why should you be able to run bots that bypass this, allowing you to skip the play to earn concept to the skip to earn play notion? Let me
So
put
my
5 minutes.
answer is okay, yeah.
Yep.
It's gonna be quick. It's not gonna take 5 minutes.
Yep. Go
My
for it.
answer is the play aspect is not in the game yet. So because we don't have that skill, intuition, ability to choose what heroes we have. I'm not sure what aspect the PVE is going to take. I'm kind of thinking of it as kind of like Pokemon, where you walk through the tall grass and something pops up. That takes a little bit of RNG. That also takes a little bit of user skill. Um, once you do encounter whatever beast pops out. But until that happens with just questing and manipulate and having the market the very limited access that we have to the game, bot automation, searching, um, stat optimization, that's what is available.
Okay. Are you good with your response there, Round Cloud?
Yeah.
Yeah, you may not need more than a few seconds to rebuttal that, Thanos, but you want to take, maybe add to or respond to.
Yeah, we agree. We agree that again, the problem is the gameplay. There's no game there. That's the bottom line
Okay,
for this
that's
question.
that's a fair response. Now, mind you, these are two opinions. I'm sure there are people who may or may not, may or may not agree with that. I think this turned into a very different discussion once we start rolling out some of that. I think by all accounts, where we can all agree this is gameplay. Let's revisit the subject. And maybe at that point in time, we revisit this specific question or specific questions. But with that said, um, as of now, it sounds like there's definitely sort of an agree to disagree on that one for you guys. That right now, no gameplay, it's all fair. That's good. Um,
No,
question
we
four.
agree that we agree.
Yes,
We
we
agree that
agreed.
we
Yeah, there
agree.
was no disagree. We agree to agree for sure. Um, so question four, and I'll start with you around Cloud 7 on this one. Um, So, not sure if you're familiar with the concept of trickle down economics or trickle down theory, as it's most commonly known. So it states that, um, in its definition or tax breaks and benefits for corporations and the wealthy will trickle down to everyone else. The idea boils down to financial benefits benefiting the wealthy will stimulate economic growth. So with that in mind, some would argue that bots in GameFi operate in a similar way. They help drive volume in the amount of transactions for large wallets, with claims of benefiting everyone else. React to this statement around Cloud.
Well, yeah, I mean that really does. So trickle down economics is to me means that the guys at the top, whenever they
Your
spend
will.
money, it falls down and it spreads down throughout the world below you. To me, that kind of equates into what the Gen Zeros are. The high level people, they're constantly summoning and producing heroes and stimulating the economy. The downside that comes into it as well is if they don't price their heroes correctly, they flood the market and nobody buys anything. Um, I know I had a point.
And while you sort of think of that point, sort of maybe add a statement or a comment, real or perceived, um, and you can respond to this. Well, spending a lot of money and sort of driving transactions is good for the economy. It's good for you, a small wallet.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I have personally profited off of those whale movements. Very, very small profits as I don't have capital to really take full advantage of that. But absolutely, yeah, seeing those large whales really drive those what are they called? Candles on the charts.
Yeah, yeah.
The red, yeah. Um, it's been a learning curve, but yeah, if you have 200,000 people all buying and selling on my level, you don't really see chart movement, but you get 4 or 5 whales in there, and it'll really start driving a, a buy or sell.
And to sort of maybe dig more into your answer, um, is there room for morality and ethics here? Like, is there room for that when you come to these macro level transactions? Wells spending all this money, and if you as a small wallet who aren't botting, like, is it fair for you to, wake up one morning and there is a giant, you know, sell pressure on any of the in-game commodities?
You're hitting one of my fears, man. Unfortunately, yes, it is absolutely fair.
It is okay.
We're all taking this gamble, hoping for that 400-500% rise. But on top of that, there also comes the chance of that 100% downfall. So, um, yeah, the morality aspect of it is if a guy comes in and he's got $3.4 million invested, he wakes up one morning and it's $300 million. I'm absolutely going to pull all of that out.
Right. Right. Okay. Anything else to add to this question around cloud?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, that sounds fair. So, um, Thanos' 2-minute rebuttal or response to what Around Cloud said.
I believe we are in agreement. I don't have to rebut anything. What I would say is I would rebut from the chat 0x Stay Mellow, who commented that these are ways to make the rich richer. It doesn't actually trickles. What I can respond to that is that I've personally witnessed small fees, people that started with a couple of heroes, and with the help of the guild that we are in and the help of the tooling that we have, they managed to grind their way out to have multiple Gen Zeros and hundreds of heroes. So, this can happen, and it's all to the degree that you leverage and play the game skillfully or not, basically. So it most definitely trickles down, and that I'm going to expand on why that is on my 5 minute
No, sounds
thesis.
fair.
What's the
No, that sounds fair. So with that said, I will interject here that there are a variety of guilds. There are a variety of bots. Maybe not in the dozens of bots. So there isn't a one guild or a one bot that's sort of doing the trick, doing the magic, doing it all. But with that said, maybe give you here Thanos 5 minutes to respond or to answer or address this comment, and I'll sort of summarize it here. So some would argue that bots in GameFi operate in a similar way as in trickle-down economics. They help drive volume and the amount of transactions for large wallets, with claims of this benefiting everyone else. Go ahead and give you these 5 minutes.
right? Let's start from the top down. So, bots are to a large degree responsible for retaining the market cap on DFK. Today, DFK manages 17,000 heroes, and that roughly translates to 20% the transactions on Crystal Veil. Now, automation has enabled players to grow their heroes to 5x. So we now have players with thousands of heroes, thousands. And that makes the game more creative and fun for them. That's also in contrast to what Around Cloud said in the previous question, where to him fun is playing the game. There is fun in playing the game by orchestrating your fleet of heroes and engaging in what we would call meta games, or focusing on the gameplay that matters to you. So, for instance, an example: okay, you have a hero and level 1, and you decide on how you want to level them up. You decide on 3 stats: strength, agility, vitality, whatever. Now, the joy you get out of that is deciding those stats and the reason why, and the philosophy and the strategy behind that. Having to do that on each level up, they grow, because now you have to write that down, and on every level up, you have to use the same stats. Okay, I mean, that's one strategy. You could say that I'm going to randomly choose stats on every level up. That's up to you. But I'm trying to give you perspectives on where we draw joy from the game. Okay, we draw joy from selecting a strategy and implementing it. So we select a strategy of leveling up, we set the automation to do it, and then we re-examine when the hero reaches level 10, how they evolved. Now, there are more material ways that economies trickle down, and that is that I talked about 20% of transactions on Crystal Veil. This is a massive burn of gold, jewel, gas. Now, and when we're talking about whales and they're doing, stampoding, that burns gold, that burns ingredients, that raises the prices of ingredients. Those ingredients then that have raised prices allow you that you quest to sell those ingredients and get a meaningful profit back. Okay, versus those ingredients having zero utility and the price of them being tanked zero. So the value you get by selling your items on the market derives out of the actions that the larger players perform. And so you have direct, benefit on the economic side, and then you also have content. So automation provides content in the form of duels. So you can always find a match on duels. You can always find, there's a very liquid heroes market. You talked about people with Gen 0 summoning. Yes, they summon and they put those Gen 1s, 10 out of 10s into the market, and that retains the price low because they are still engaged with the game, they play the game, so more Gen 1s, 10 out of 10s are summoned versus not being summoned and being very rare item. So the prices are kept low. And they perform, even YouTube summoning events, etc. That's all. That all adds to the content, right? Um, and that's how you get trickle down economics from the bots today.
Okay, no, that's fair. It sounds like you're done with your response here or your answer, Thanos.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. 2 minutes here for a round cut, and I want you to maybe sort of um respond more specifically. I had never given so much thought as to what specifically, but you're saying you've benefited from some of these large transactions. The whole Reaganomics, right, trickle down thing. Um, if maybe you could take some time here in your 2 minute rebuttal or response to sort of give me an example of, like, for you, like, how do you see it benefiting you, and how I might benefit from that as well, or any of our listeners here.
So I'll do that, but I want to end with kind of a half question for Thanpolis. So my benefits come off of Dex Screener. I love Dex Screener, watching the all of the different Harmony tokens um, with each
Harmony.
of their.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad, not Harmony. Shoot, the taboo name. The DFK, all of the DFK tokens. Um, and watching their 5 minute, 24-hour, 2 week percentages. Um, but I'll find one, and then you just wait for that whale to drop one, and you see the candle either fall all the way down, and you're like, all right, well, let's turn some shimmer skins into rock root or something like that. And then you come back and you see it jump all the other tune fed in chat, Humany. Anyways, but yeah, just watching your, for me, I think the best success I had was I made 36 Jewel in 20 minutes watching DFK Gold sink and rise. Good, solid chunks back and forth. I had no idea what was going on. It looked like everybody was on the same train I was. But yeah, just being able to see those large jumps really pulls in people like me that don't have a whole lot, but can really ride that market. But the question that I do have that I want to see what Tampola says is, for the whales that drive liquidity, because I don't know much about it. That really does, as far as I know, drive trickle down, because um, I don't have the level of income and uh, inventory to set up an actual liquidity pool. So being able to go into the market and buy stuff from the trader, because a whale put in 50 gold eggs and whatever jewel, it does allow someone like me to buy one with when I had like 9 heroes. I wasn't finding any. So being able to buy one from the trader was definitely a perk. What do you think?
And so with
Oh
that
yeah, we
said,
agree.
I know we're deviating a bit from the structure, but I do that's a great question. I want to give you maybe 2 minutes there to respond to that with the acknowledgement that there may not be a rebuttal there for you or
Yeah.
sort of a response to you around Cloud.
Uh,
So
I don't believe there's anything to respond to. I mean, we agree on that, right? This is part of what the wells do. You know, they extract all of these items through automation. They put them back in the form of liquidity pools. Everybody benefits.
Good.
okay, that sounds fair. So let's end with and before I ask my fifth question here, I do want to make time for if anyone in the room has any questions they might want to ask, we can maybe take one here at the end. But I'll end with maybe one of the more controversial questions, something that has come up in one form or another. And we'll go ahead and start with Thanos here on this one. Are third-party bots dangerous? Is there room for them in DFK? Is there room for them in GameFi? I'll give you 5 minutes here.
Okay, so this is a very important topic and one that many players have suffered from. And we know personal stories and very sad stories. Everything in crypto involves risk. Self custody is a grave responsibility. You make a mistake, there's no central authority to rectify that mistake. You know, on a bank, you make a wrong wire, you're going to get your funds back. The bank gets stolen, you're going to get your funds back. On crypto, you are responsible for your funds. That is what self custody means, and that is the responsibility that you carry. Now, when it comes to bots, automation, for DFK in particular, there are basically two divisions of bots: the bots that are trustless and the bots that are trustful. I'm going to explain what that means. So, a trustless automation bot is one that is, for instance, DFK Earn is the one that I know, where you effectively stake your heroes on a contract that is a smart contract that has been verified. It is open source, deployed on the blockchain, and verified. Being verified means that the author of the contract provides the source of the contract, and that source has been verified that it corresponds to the deployed contract. So in that way, somebody that knows how to read that source can attest that this contract is not going to rug you. That is what we call trustless in the world of blockchain. So DFKN has those contracts deployed. You stake your heroes to those contracts, and those contracts then through another mechanism auto quest your heroes, and you get a small reward. Now the upside is that this is trustless, so you don't have to fear much. You don't have to trust the third party in order to have automation. The downside is that it's limited on functionality, so it doesn't support auto leveling up, it doesn't support stamp voting, it doesn't support Christabel because it's a closed blockchain. There are some challenges with airdrops, etc. On the other hand, you have trustful services where you have to trust the author. And those are the services like DivKey, like Waifu, or the DFK Quester. That's an upcoming automation one that I highly recommend for people to start using once it's out of beta. Now, the downside is that it's trustful. You have to trust the author. And the upside is that they offer more functionality. Okay, so it's completely hands-off. The hero, you can configure them to do whatever you want them to do. You can configure them to do training quests. You set up a leveling up regime. You stamp out them. You move them to Christabel. You have freedom to do whatever you want to do with your assets. Now, again, do your own research. As a general rule of thumb, on every crypto project, check who are the developers, who are the authors, are they doxed, are they not doxed, what is their background, what they've done before. Observe the practices they employ, and that means that you also have to somehow become aware of at least the basics, the baseline of what it means, what best practices means of handling private keys. And you also need to be aware of how to handle your private keys. I had cases where users on DFK Discord pasted their private key on Discord, or pasted their private key where a license key was asked and it was saved on my server's database. In both of those cases, I ran to both users and told them, move your assets out of that wallet immediately, burn this address. If you're going to use a trustful service, make sure that you use an account that is used exclusively for questing. Do not hold any other assets from other networks or other projects in that address. Create a new wallet, put your heroes there, put some gas in that wallet, and use that on the service. And that's the best advice I can give as a general rule of thumb.
No, that's great. Thanks for that. Right at that 5 minute mark. Again, one of the things I will I think we can all agree on this one is always do your research on just about anything. Uh, Trust no one but yourself. Ultimately, right, and make sure that whoever you are entrusting anything to, again, at the end of the day, that's sort of on you to sort of do that research. And some great examples there, Thanos. I appreciate it. So with that said, um, around Cloud 7, let's go ahead and do a rebuttal to this. I'll give you 2 minutes and sort of respond to Thanos' statements, and then we'll go back to the question and give you 5 minutes to answer as well. So I'll give you 2 minutes. Take what you need.
Um, yeah, bourgeois security is so much work, and it is so necessary. The as long as bots are not an exploit and just a tool, they will always have a place. They will always be used regardless, because I mean, there's developers out there that are constantly coding. But yeah, as long as it's not an exploit, yeah, that's my rebuttal.
Okay, now that sounds fair. I'll give you 5 minutes, and again, I'll restate: are third-party bots dangerous? Is there room for them in DFK? And sort of more context to that question. I know it gets brought up a lot, right? Third-party bots may be dangerous. Quality of life improvements are desired, but maybe embed them into whatever GameFi project you're looking at. So go ahead and respond to that question. You've got 5 minutes.
So if I haven't said it already, I am using an auto quester for some of my heroes. The danger that I see, Thanopolis absolutely covered. Thanopolis covered. It's all about doing your due diligence. As long as you're doing your research for these teams, check your developers. It is a tool, you should be able to use them, but don't leave all of your stuff connected to one wallet that you're going to be trying. You're essentially transferring your heroes over to another owner. You do have the ability to get them back, but if that person takes away your ability, that's the danger that I see. But I feel like we are lucky enough that we have such a solid community that the people that are building these bots do have nothing but love in their hearts for the game and want to see people progress. So, yeah, I haven't met any malicious developers yet, and that's amazing.
And I will add a caveat to that. It sort of has a CY for all of us, right? Intent is hard to sort of to determine when anonymity is sort of big, right? in the crypto space. Always do your research. I'll reemphasize that. Always do your research. Um, you can trust someone, but can you ultimately trust them with the keys to your car, your house, right? Um, so NFA, if that is the direction you're going in, make sure you know what you're getting into. Anything else to add there around Cloud 7
I think I'm
before?
yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll give you 2 minutes. I don't know that you'll need 2 minutes, Thanos, but feel free to respond or add to what around Cloud 7 said.
Right. I have 2 points. First of all, around cloud mentioned that there are no malicious devs. There are, however, scammers. So if you go on Reddit and post a question on, I wanna automate, where are the bots? You're gonna get 5 DMs from scammers. Okay, so be very aware of that. Similarly, probably on Discord, you might get DMs. If you ask, I want a bot, you're going to get DMs from scammers. These are very dangerous stuff. And, you need to be very wary of this problem. Now, I just want to make a short point on what Around Cloud said on transferring heroes to another owner. You should never find yourself in this condition. It's either you're using, a trustless service where you stake your heroes. You are no more transferring your heroes to that owner as you would when you provide liquidity on an LP. Okay, when you provide liquidity, you put your USDC in a contract, you get back an LP token. It's exactly the same mechanic. When you run on trust full bots like Waifu or DFK, those heroes are retained with you. The private key that you provide to those services remains within your computer. It doesn't travel on the cloud. It doesn't go away from your computer. Okay, so I just want to clarify this detail because there's a lot of misrepresentation and confusion around this particular point. At no point should you ever find yourself sending heroes or transferring your private key over the cloud.
So no, thanks for that. It looks like we may have lost around Cloud 7. Just to let you know, if you can hear us around Cloud 7, we can't see you any longer. With that said, it does take us to the very end. We've answered the questions that have come through. I didn't see any questions in the chat box to be asking. I may have missed that. Again, around Cloud 7, thank you very much for pivoting here at the last minute. If we need
Is he
to
coming
revisit,
back? I would like to touch on a subject that came up yesterday that's sensitive and kind of raised some
sure.
dust.
I think we've got time for one more maybe question comment here.
But I'd like Around Cloud to be present.
So around Cloud, can you no, he's probably trying to log back on. And maybe while he tries to log on, give him a minute here. Can we talk? Yeah, he says he's on, but we can't hear him, so he's probably gonna have to log back on. We'll give him a minute here. But maybe while we pause there, take a minute here. I think there may be some sort of maybe misconceptions around you and other bot producers, other developers. I mean, I would argue that you probably enjoy DFK like many of us do, and enough to sort of not just invest in the game, the project, the tools, but developing some of that yourself. Um, can and sort of on a positive note here, one of those we can agree to agree potentially, your takes on the project, big picture, and where you see things sort of developing in the future.
Right. I mean, that's one of the misconceptions I'd like to address. That is that, us tend to benefit way more by the game succeeding than me running Diffkey. And to answer the question by TuneFed, how long has Diffkey been has been up and running? So Diffkey has been running since basically when quests landed. And it has been running privately on our guild. And it's been since May that Diffkey became a public service so as to level the play field. Okay, we did have an unfair advantage by automating and having a closed tool in our guild, we made it public, and now that advantage has been leveled. So, and that is, again, that goes back to the question around how trickle-down economics work. That has now become a service to DFK as it has retained their market cap, because otherwise the large hero holders would lose interest without such a tool and services. And I would like also to give you another viewpoint from my perspective, being an admin on the developers Discord for DFK. There's not a player of DFK that is a developer that doesn't have their own version of a bot. And we're talking about probably hundreds of people. And to that degree, I would like also to state that, many people get confused and they kind of put on my face the embodiment of everything they hate, and I get a lot of misplaced anger. It's only because I'm out there and every day and every moment, and that shouldn't be. It's unfair to put on my face every bad that's happening, everything bad that's happening on your personal life, or whatever is going wrong with your financials and the bear market. It's tough for everyone, but it's fine if you want to scapegoat me, but you're missing the point there.
No, no, and thank you. That's a fair sort of statement to ask. I know, you're a very sort of what would you say? You're a very you're
Active.
active personality in the community, and I know sort of you end up being the recipient of a lot of that sort of hate, mistrust, or what have you.
Can y'all hear me
From
now?
I can hear you
Yes.
now. I think
I
you're
don't know
Alright.
back.
if
I
YouTube
hope
can.
you all can hear him as well. Can you all hear around Cloud 7 in the chat? Maybe a thumbs up or a yes. I know we could hear him earlier, but you all couldn't. And while we wait for a response, I know there's a delay in sort of the stream here. Thanos, I know you had maybe one more question. Sounds like you all can hear around Cloud. Great. You had one more maybe question to sort of end on, and you wanted around Cloud 7 sort of go back and forth, and I think that'll be the last question we'll take.
Right.
But
I believe Around Cloud is also informed about that. User, I believe, method yesterday came out saying a couple of things around Duels, that it's the same account that is going on playing the low ranks, earning raffle tickets, and they win a lot of the raffles due to their massive ticket count.
40
Around
to
Cloud, do
60%.
you? Right. So I'd like us to touch on this.
no, I think that's a very important sort of question statement to end on. I know is
Hey,
something
Tunzad.
that came up, but around Cloud 7, if you want to, maybe we'll give you 5 minutes to touch on the issue there, and hopefully it's something we can, maybe you need 5 minutes, maybe you don't, but we'll go ahead and hit the start here. Thoughts on that, and sort of maybe we'll hear Thanos' thoughts as well here.
So I mean, my thoughts on this, it's not really a botting exploit. It's more akin to what happened with the mining locked jewel shenanigans. There was a loophole that someone was able to exploit by having multiple wallets, transferring a hero or a team of heroes back and forth, making sure that they were rank 1-0 experience, absolutely dominating people like me. I haven't been able to win a duel in probably about a week and a half. I've been running off of the tickets that I got when Duels came out. But it's disheartening to see because I literally just figured out how raffles worked, and now I can't win any more tickets. So it's not really an exploit. It's just a misstep in, yeah, it's a loophole.
And that's interesting. I mean, I caught some of that conversation. I wasn't there for all of it. I know there was a lot of back and forth, and we'll give you 2 minutes here to maybe respond, or well, let's do 5 minutes to respond to that as well,
Yeah.
Thanos, and then if we need two and two, we can go to that. But
Right.
insight there. It sounds like you have something to say on the matter.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic case of where things can go wrong and engage in mob mentality and basically borderline slander. Because the matter of the fact is that there was no loophole, there was no exploit. So there's no comparison to the mining exploit, which was an exploit that was well known to the DFK team since January, and it didn't got fixed until they were forced to on May, right? So, first of all, again, we come up with whatever discovery and we draw some conclusions. As a community, we ought to be civilized in our discourse and strive to have some decency in how we engage with each other. Okay. Now, in regards to the what happened, first of all, duels are in beta. Okay, they're beta tested, and no rules were broken. This is basically an established technique on all PvP, ranked games. It's called smurfing or sandbagging. It's the act of setting your hero up in a way that you can put him in PvP with lower ranks where your hero is higher rank. In the context of GameFi, that is effectively utilizing your asset to their full potential. Okay, so that is allowed by the rules, for better or for worse. And you have this capability. You have 1,000 heroes. You can afford to have 5, 6, 7 different squads of heroes that are constantly dueling. You pick. You don't. I mean, you have 5 squads of heroes. 2 of them are constantly dueling. The rest are on cooldown, moving between accounts. Okay, that is what has happened, and you realize this opportunity, you realize this profit opportunity. Again, we are on finance. You're going to take advantage of it. Okay, no rules were broken, and on the positive side, these are all weaknesses that the system needs to address. Again, we are on beta, and what we should focus on is how we can make the system more robust. How can we address these weaknesses? Because when there are weaknesses, you cannot blame the people that take advantage of them. They shouldn't be there in the first place. This goes back again to the conversation around sniping bots and accidental listings. It's the same concept there. Now, on a more general note, touching on duels, my personal opinion on duels is that it's a game for 5 or 10 players. If you look at the rankings, the top 5 players haven't moved for months. So personally, I question the value in duels in terms of gameplay, and that's why I hope the iteration of duels somehow factors in, and it has tiers like the god tier, like players like Baka and Sok Velo and Esther are, and then different tiers for us mortals, where we have lesser developed heroes, not level 20,
Yep.
mythic dreadnoughts.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and so we can have a chance, right? And talking from the gameplay perspective again. So yeah, again, decency, civilized discourse, focus on making the game better, not pulling the pitchforks and engaging in mob mentality and being untowards, using profanity. Doesn't help the community and doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. I was interested to hear where you were going with this because it was something, like I said, most of the conversation today, as far as questions that were developed, were sort of scripted on my end. But it's an interesting point. I'm glad you brought it up. I will say, from what I know, something that was brought up to the team yesterday. It looks like they're definitely looking at it. And to your point, it's not a traditional exploit, right? It's more of a game strategy. They're looking at it. Duels is coming down. It was beta. They're gonna bring, season one. It will be coming hopefully here soon. And maybe some of these issues are addressed. But I think to your point, I do want to end on this note. I think I couldn't have said it more beautifully myself. Um, we are a community. We love DFK. We want to see it grow. Let's be civil in our discourse amongst each other, right? No need for FUD storms, no need for this or that or what. I mean, at the end of the day, hey, you know what? It's something that's being developed. It's something that's growing. It's not perfect. I don't think anyone's claiming the DFK to be perfect. And what I love seeing time after time, sometimes slower, sometimes faster. They see some of these things come up, and they do end up, addressing them in some
That's
form or fashion.
I
Around
will
cloud.
say it came up, and the I went around. I was at work when that chat went down, and I went around to coworkers that I have been trying to get into this game, and said, "This right here is why I'm still in this game, because not 3 minutes after that chat started going off, Bolin dropped in the chat and said." This is the first time we've been made aware of it. We are looking into it, and it is being addressed.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, maybe we're not happy with the way anything's addressed, right? But at the, but they are looking into stuff. They are trying to address things, and that's the message I'd like to leave us all with as well. It's like, hey, you know what? Let's work together as a community to move the game forward. Um, and what DFK, looks like for each of us is maybe a bit different. I love that there's a million different strategies, and bots good, bots bad. At the end of the day, you'll make that decision on your own. I hope that some of the questions discussed today help sort of maybe better inform you. Um, there are no winners or losers today, as far as who won the debate. Some might argue that it wasn't so much of a debate because
Uh,
around cloud, you wound up
yeah, I think
agreeing with some
Fan
of the
won. I
statements.
think Fan won that one.
No, no, and it was one of
We
those
all
things where we
won.
won. Yeah, we all won. We wound up pivoting. And if you, the audience, anyone seems very strong convictions about wanting to come back and maybe make this more of a true debate, sort of that civil, have a civil discourse in a debate style interview. I invite you, reach out to me. We can maybe set something up. I know Thanos, you would more than likely be interested in sort of revisiting some of these subjects, and going from there. But with that said, any closing remarks from either of you?
I do,
Um,
yes. Um,
yes,
Closing remarks. Bullish on DFK, so hardcore, but our community is already at the moon. So I love all of you. If y'all haven't DM'd Cloud7 Ascended in the DFK Discord, send me a message there in chat as well. I will be picking, depending on how many messages, up to 3 people to receive up to 2 crystals each.
perfect. And I heard, Thanos, you're raffling off 10 of your Gen Zeros. Is that right? I'm just kidding.
Yep.
uh,
So
uh,
what?
yeah. What, we didn't agree to this.
I
No,
didn't
but
sign up to this.
yeah. But Thanos, any closing remarks on your behalf?
Yeah, a couple of notes. Basically, for me, the entire boarding topic is a topic of education and being informed on the topics of, again, what is blockchain, what is a decentralized blockchain, the environment we operate on. It's those nuances that people need to be informed before launching an opinion or building their morality, because bringing the morals of video gaming is simply something that's not applicable on GameFi. It's the equivalent of American with European football. You catch the ball and start running, and everybody's looking at you like, what is that person doing? The problem is that that's a both a blessing and a curse for DeFi kingdoms is that 95% of the user base, the players, are either their first or their second exposure to crypto is DFK, and that's the reason why they come with less informed around what crypto is, the background, the history, what role automation plays, and how it works. All of that is missing. So naturally, they become angered and enraged with things that they shouldn't. And again, now we go to the second point, which is, you know, give yourself some room to understand what is happening, why it's happening, leave some room for debate, for discussion. I had wonderful conversations with many members of the community, civilized, where we engaged in mutual respect and laid out all of our points and cards, and we might not come to an agreement, but there's mutual respect in the conversation, and that's where we want to be as a community.
That sounds fair. I couldn't have said again. I couldn't have said that better myself. I'll end with we'll see you next time. We hope you like what we presented today. Again, do your own research, make your own opinions. Consider a like, consider a follow. Those aren't up for debate. Do it. Follow me, like me. Like the video. No, but we'll catch you. We'll catch you on our next week's episode. We'll tease it out a bit more on Discord and I'm sorry on Twitter and maybe post some information on Discord for you all. But thank you very much for taking the time, Thanos around Cloud for pivoting, sort of being part of this as well. And we'll catch you on next time.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah.